Real quick before we dive into this episode of the podcast, be sure to grab your free PDF copies of my latest books at frugal.show/free. Now on to the show. Welcome to the Frugalpreneur podcast. I am your host, Sarah St. John. This episode is what I refer to as a showcase episode where I feature a bootstrapped entrepreneur and they briefly share their tips, tricks, tactics, techniques, and tools that help them bootstrap their business and the successes and failures along the way. My hope is that each of these showcase episodes will provide at least one valuable takeaway that you could implement right away in your own bootstrap business journey. Now on to the episode.
Hi, my name is Ashton Rodenhiser, and I founded my creative business, Mind's Eye Creative Consulting, a number of years ago. And I really started to see the power that visuals can really, just the power of them in a group setting as a facilitator first. And then I decided that this was just too awesome not to do all the time. So I started drawing out conversations full time. It's kind of starting in 2014, but really went all in from the business angle in kind of late 2016. So, the thing about my business, which is really interesting, is that when I started, I only used pen and markers and paper. So, when I would get in front of a group of people, I would throw some paper on the wall and I had my markers and I would draw out the conversation. So, the great thing was I didn't need a lot of fancy tools to get started. I didn't have to buy a fancy laptop. I didn't really need any tech equipment. I used the laptop that I already had and emailed people that way. And I didn't have any like subscriptions or anything like that to help me run sort of my business. I just really built one on one relationships with people and supported them in that way. So, yeah, when I was in person, and I just had my markers. Like right now, now I have like really kind of top of the line markers that I use when I do in person work. But back then, I just used sort of your kind of everyday basic marker and a giant roll of paper that cost like $20 and some tape. And that's all I really needed to do to get started. And yeah, I just sort of leaned on my already existing network of people and really figured it out, a lot of it in the beginning by myself. And I had a facilitator friend who really supported me and he provided some guidance for me on how to do a little bit more and get some clients from the facilitation angle. So I would say one of my biggest successes when it came to strapping was the fact that I used a strategy around cold pitching. So because I draw at a lot of conferences and I thought that would be like the easiest sell, I would just email conferences, like hundreds, if not thousands of conferences over the years, and just sort of introduce myself and said, this is something I do. If it might interest you, we can have a conversation about it. And from doing so, it didn't cost me anything other than my time to do the research and send these emails out. And I really made them personal as well. And I would say one of my biggest successes from doing that strategy, which didn't cost anything, was I was on stage drawing out a fireside chat with a co founder of Apple, Steve Wozniak. So, me, Steve, and the person asking the questions in front of stage in front of like thousands of people. So, that was pretty wild. And I would say the biggest failure, I don't know if this is a failure, but I'll just kind of speak to the fact that because I didn't really pay for a lot of business programs or coaching, I think it just took me a lot longer to learn things that I think would have been really helpful and useful in the beginning. And because I didn't invest in those types of opportunities, I think it made my learning curve a lot longer because I wasn't getting like tips, suggestions, and just that wisdom to be able to, know some of those things that you could have saved me a lot of time, energy in the end. So I would say that was probably, it's not like a failure, but that's definitely something that I could have improved upon in the beginning. Some of the things that was really helpful in the beginning were things that I could, like SaaS software online that I could sign up for that had free tiers. So, a social media platform scheduling tool, for example, a lot of times I would just use the free tiers of those, and I often still do actually. Programs that have trials so that I know if it's something that I do want to invest some time into and money. And I know this might sound a little funny, but I've been switching more recently to annual subscriptions instead of paying monthly, just some of them, because you can actually save like 10 or 15% in the long run. So I've been looking at if I pay for some of these on an annual basis, that actually frees up some more cash that I can pay for other ones, which is kind of fun. But I think ultimately, the best tip that doesn't cost anything, like I mentioned earlier, is the building relationships and really connecting with people and really, yeah, just building those one-on-one relationships, because you really never know where that's going to kind of go to and lead into. And luckily in my industry, we're very supportive, even though we are like considered competitors to one another. We're really supportive of one another, and building relationships with people in your existing industry actually is really good too, because sometimes their plate gets full or something happens in their life and they can't take on work. And it's great to be top of mind for someone who can refer you to someone who's also in the industry. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat a little bit about what it is I do and how I got started as bootstrapping my business. I would just highly encourage people to put pen to paper, and by doing so, you'll help yourself remember more information longer. If you want to learn about sketchnoting, which is like a visual note taking tool, you can go and sign up for my 15-minute free workshop at sketchnote101.com. And that will walk you through how to draw your very first sketch note, which is really fun. All right. Thanks again.
I hope you enjoyed that episode and were able to take away a valuable nugget of information that you can implement right away in your own business. If you feel your story would be valuable for the listeners of this show, please visit frugal.show/guest. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you haven't already, don't forget to grab your free PDF copies of my latest books at frugal.show/free. Until next time.